Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you again. It's Pastor Steve with you. And today Kelly Westlund is here. Hi, Kelly.
Hey.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Amanda is enjoying some time away with her husband, Tim. They're celebrating their anniversary. So please keep them in prayer. And it's good to be here with you, Kelly. Wow, what a great afternoon. I'm in the office, as you can see. Nobody's here except for me. It's just beautiful outside. It's praising God for his glory. And so this is our Thursday afternoon family chat. And we're glad you're with us, Richland Lutheran Church. And if you're not a part of our congregation, we also give you a welcome. And we don't say it as often as we ought to, but if you don't have a church home, you're welcome to join us. Obviously, we can't do worship services yet or any of our programs or activities, but we meet on Sunday mornings on YouTube at Richland Lutheran Church. You can search for us and find us there. And that's at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We would love to have you. Kelly, I've asked you to prepare a little something that's on your heart. So take it away. And friends, as you listen and watch, please respond in the comments section. We would love to hear from you today. And in about 10 or 15 minutes, we'll give you some updates, some information, and then we'll pray together. So what do you have, Kelly?
Good. Great. Well, today I'd like to talk a little bit about grief and how to support those who might be grieving right now. Back when your sister was with us that day, Steve, she mentioned that a lot of us are really experiencing grief, and that kind of seemed to today touch on a lot of people's hearts. And so I just wanted to kind of go back to that a little bit and talk about what grief looks like for some of us. I have a couple of Bible verses I'd like to open with. The first one is Psalm 61, verses 1 and 2. And the psalmist says, "Hear my cry, O God, listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth, I call to you when my heart is faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you have been my refuge." And then also from Psalm 6, verses 6 and 7, "I am weary with my moaning. Every night I fled my bed with tears. I drench my couch with my weeping. My eye wastes away because of grief." And, you know, there's so many different things going on right now in the world with COVID and then all of the other things that are happening in our country. And there's a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And I found a definition of grief in some of the training that the grief share facilitators at RLC and I went through. And this is how grief is defined. It's the combination of complex and often conflicting thoughts and feelings that a person experiences following loss or change. And so one of the things I just wanted to ask everybody is what are some of the losses that we experience that can trigger grief? You know, the main one we think of is when someone that we love and care for dies, and that's a that's a hard time.
It's a big loss, heavy loss. Yep.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other losses too that can trigger a grief process. We talked with Brecken a few weeks ago about you know, the way that school is ending this year with no real graduation ceremony, and we know that a lot of our students are really grieving that whole thing too. That's a big loss for them. So
yeah, absolutely. And even the end of the school year for kids,
yeah,
classroom time, those
right.
are big losses for any age person who's used to being in the classroom.
Truly, yeah.
Kathy Umbarger comments that she feels a sense of loss of the physical touch of friends. And
Mm-hmm.
gosh, we know this in our heads. Sociologists, psychologists done a lot of study about the importance of human touch. But now I think in a way we've never experienced before, we're really longing for that human
Yeah,
touch. Just a pat on the hand or a handshake
yeah, right.
or a hug, or I mean, it's so important. And that's a
Mhm.
huge loss. And no matter what we do, we're trying to make good on worship services and going to work and all of the stuff we need to do, but there's nothing that replaces human touch.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Kathy.
yeah. Jenny mentioned loss of trust in someone, and that's another big one. Relationships, you
Yeah.
know, when a relationship starts to fall apart, there is really a grieving process in that, for sure.
Yeah. And trust is one of those things that's hard to get back to
Hmm.
because it requires the one whose trust was broken to take a risk and enter back into potentially being broken and hurt again.
Yeah, yeah,
And
right.
who wants to do that?
Yeah,
You
yeah, it's hard.
know, it is hard. I'm with you, Jenny. It's a strange time, and we have uh, been all affected by this pandemic, and Kelly too. What I'm surprised by is, and it's not a value judgment. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. But I'm just surprised at the spectrum of people's responses to the pandemic.
Yeah,
It's all over the place.
it is.
And I don't know, I guess I don't know why I'm surprised, but that could also be, I've been preparing for next week's devotionals, and in so doing, we're talking about unity in the church.
Hmm.
And gosh, we just don't have unity
Yeah, anywhere.
anywhere. Uh,
Yeah,
in the world, in the church. It's so not only loss of trust, but loss of unity and camaraderie and community.
hmm,
Those things are all of vital importance.
yeah, definitely.
Sandy Steele says that she's experiencing loss of the things that have been taken away. And
Hmm.
you mentioned the physical, like we've already talked about, but also the emotional. We have a lot of emotional loss too,
Right.
and that's difficult to get our minds around.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is too that um, it all looks different for each of us. So when we talk about grief and we talk about what that might look like, it used to be that we talked about there was kind of a progression of how we worked through grief, but really what we're finding now is that there's there's a really big variety of ways that people respond and react to grief. And we've talked about that list of emotions that you'll be able to find it in the files list on the Facebook group page. But um, even even in grief, there's a whole huge spectrum of emotions that people go through, or different reactions. And for everyone, it's unique. We
Yeah,
just don't all respond the same. And so, you might see that one person is really having a hard time and they're really expressing it. And then there's another person who you might not necessarily be able to tell, but inside they're kind of falling apart.
yeah,
And I think that's something, especially now in our current situation, that we need to really be aware of. We just don't know what someone is going through.
And allow for them to go through it.
Yes.
Even if it's different than
Yeah.
the way we're going through it.
Right.
That's the hard part, because we like to think that our way is the best way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet
And
it's not. It's just a way. Our way is a way. It's not the way. And
yeah.
others, we have to give grace to others to experience
Yeah.
their loss and their grief.
Yeah, definitely. So we might see a whole range of things going from, bitterness to anxiety to disappointment to, they may just feel really fatigued all the time. They may be having moments of forgetfulness. That's very common. Hopelessness. Impatience, they may feel like they need to isolate themselves or not, and so we have to just really be sensitive to that and compassionate for what other people are going through. The other thing about grief is that, like I said before, it's not necessarily a predictable path. So you may have one day that's going really well and another day that is just full of things that trigger, intense emotions. And one of the things that we talk about in Grief Share is that it kind of is like having those balls that people make sometimes with rubber bands, and it just looks like a big twisted up mess of rubber bands.
Yeah.
That's kind of how our emotions can get.
Yeah.
Just have this big twisted ball of things that we're feeling and dealing with. And then the other thing that's important to know is that there's no set time for grief, right? It's not going to start today and be done in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It can last a long time. And even sometimes we feel like we've kind of gotten through it or gotten past it, and then something will trigger that grief feeling again. And so don't be surprised by that.
So I want to ask you a question here, Kelly.
Yeah.
Would you be surprised if our sense of loss and change and mourning and grief is extended well into the fall and maybe even into the new year?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You?
No, it would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be surprised by that either.
I would expect that, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even if tomorrow we go back, and we know we're not going to, but back to the way it was, and we know that that's the way it was is not going to be the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever again. But we still have 3 months of grief and loss and mourning and all of those ways that we've experienced those things too. It takes a while to get through.
Right.
Val Silva writes here in our comments that we're not to grieve in isolation, and yet here we are.
We are, yeah.
And so we don't have the normal means to be with each other, to bear one another's burdens or whatever. So that even compounds the problem of mourning.
It really does. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was that how can we walk alongside each other during these times of grief and loss, and because we don't want to do it in isolation. And one of the important things to remember is that we can't fix it for someone else, right? We can't just go in and say, okay, here's how to make it all better. and fix it for them. But we do need to understand that there is a process and that folks need support, and we can give that to them. And part of that too is to not let fear of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing hold you back.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're going to say the wrong thing. It's, unfortunately it just happens. But but if we're reaching out in love and compassion to our friends and our family who are going through grief, they're gonna see that and know that from you. But the biggest thing is really to be there for them. And this can happen in a couple of different ways. It can be that you're calling and talking to them, because especially now, when we can't necessarily all gather together, just being there to listen for them, to honor their story of whatever is happening in their life and let them express that to you in whatever way they need to, and ask questions. Be curious about what they're feeling and what they're going through, and help them really express it. We try to think that or we often think that tears are not a good thing, that it's a sign of weakness, and yet if we let that out, that can be really helpful for us, not only emotionally but physically.
Yeah.
So it's a good release. And so, just being there, and then even if they don't want to talk, just be okay with the silence. Just be a companion in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the other ways would be offering some practical help. Can you help make phone calls if phone calls are necessary? Can you run an errand or two for them? Provide a meal? Someone mentioned in Grief Share, sorry, just a moment. Someone mentioned in Grief Share that they had a neighbor who offered to mow the lawn for them because their spouse is gone now and they're overwhelmed with things that need to be done, and just someone came over and said, can I mow the lawn for you?
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yep.
So there's a lot of other ways that we can offer practical help alongside just being there and listening for people.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of the big takeaways for me is when it comes to grief, knowing that I'm not the only one that's grieving here.
Absolutely.
We're all mourning loss. We all have something that's been taken away from us, or many things. And this is where we get to live into a life that is truly, people talk about presence, and that's, when it comes to grief and helping one grieve and mourn, presence is 80%, maybe more, of the response that we give. But it's so hard because we can't be present in ways that we are typically present. I like your idea of offering to help, of making phone calls, calling individuals, of even like this, having some kind of a virtual time together or presence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And social distancing.
It's one of the greatest things about our technology right now is, even if we can't be in person, we can see each other's faces and talk. Yeah.
Well, this is good stuff. And folks, it's certainly good to hear from you. And again, if you're in a place of mourning loss or lamenting change, then welcome to the family. We're all there. It's tough.
Yeah.
And yet there's an opportunity for us to be with each other in ways that we've not been before. And Kelly, that's what I want to say. I am overwhelmed with pride in our congregation. Our folks are going above and beyond in care for one another in ways and to a degree I've never seen. And it's a joy to watch this happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, God laments with us and mourns in this space. And he also works together all things for good. And so what a gift it is to see our congregation love each other. And so well done, everyone. Good work.
I agree. Oh, can I end with one other Bible verse real quick?
Nope.
Anyway, I just want to end it with, just a little bit of hope for everybody, because, even for all of us that are grieving a loss right now, that one of the most important things to remember alongside of the community that we have within the church is, and more importantly, that God is always with us. He hasn't left us alone to go through this whole situation. He is always right with us all the time. And one of my very favorite Bible verses is Romans 15:13, and we've used it before in worship for a benediction many times. And so I just want to close our conversation with this verse today. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. It's just so powerful. We have all these things that are happening around us that we have absolutely no control over. We have a lot of loss that we can't really do a whole lot about, but God's got it, and he's got us, and he's not going to let go. And we
That's
just really need to hold on to that.
Great way to end. Yeah. Hope in the Lord where there's not hope elsewhere.
Yeah.
So let's change gears a little bit, talk a little bit about updates and what's coming up. So I have a couple announcements, and then I'll turn it over to you, Kelly, for the stuff I missed.
Okay. Sounds good.
After this family chat at 3:00, I'm meeting with our 3 council members and 3 staff members on the COVID-19 safety planning team. And we're working diligently to get back into our facilities in a way that's both timely and safe. This week, I think, early this week or even late last week, you got a letter from our congregation president, Sandy Steele, encouraging your patience and continued prayers for us. And I just want to thank Sandy for writing such a great letter, and for you who have received it. There was an article there that was included, put out by the Gospel Coalition, talking about not allowing COVID-19 to divide us as a congregation. And we're being intentional about that. And part of our intentionality will be to begin to discuss next week in our devotions together. And I recorded those yesterday. We're going to look at what are called the one another's in Scripture. So in English, that's 2 words, one another. In the Greek, alelon, is 1 word. And it can be translated one another, which is it typically is, or each other, or some other ways. But it really evidences or has the connotation or meaning of doing life together. And alelon is used, now I gotta tap into my memory. Didn't you say something about memory loss? I think it's about 100 times it's used in the New Testament.
Wow.
and sometimes twice in a verse. And so I think 94 verses in the New Testament. That's a lot. And it's almost always directed to the believers, to the church. So we're going to look at that next week. And there are three, for the next few weeks, general headings. So there's the unity passages, that we live together in unity. There are the passages on love. When it comes to alelon, the one another's, and each of those are about, I think it's about 35% of the passages, and then about 15% of the passages have to do with humility. So can you imagine our congregation, Kelly, if we really spent time, each of us, discovering what scripture says about doing life together with one another, alelon, to be united and in love and practice humility. Those three things. Wow.
Great.
Our congregation would it would change the world here in our little corner of it. So I'm super excited to bring those to you starting next week, and I hope you enjoy those.
Sounds great.
Yep. So be praying for that team. We're meeting at 3:00 today. And what else do we have, Kelly?
Well, there's work happening on the adjacent properties that's started to move forward now.
So the latest update is the abatement for all of those homes is complete. We're waiting on our demo guy's calendar now to be rescheduled. And let's see, the pole in the middle of the new parking lot is going to be moved. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, that'll help actually.
We're really grateful for the adjacent properties team.
Good. And the lighting project in the sanctuary has been proceeding as well.
Yep, so this Sunday there's going to be a work day for our tech people, and they'll be here socially distancing and with masks, working to complete that project. So by the time we get back into our building, we'll have the new lighting system up, and it looks great. Very respectable and respectful of the space we're in, and it makes a huge difference for our live streaming. And I'm sure you've been noticing that. So just thanks to Bob Thompson, who's been leading that project, and our tech team.
That's great. And then just a couple other things. We did just finish our current session of Grief Share last night. It was great. And we're looking at starting a new session in late August. Just depending on how things go between now and then, we're not totally sure how that's going to look yet, but we had a great time doing the whole group time on Zoom and being able to watch the videos and discuss it. So if that's how we need to start, that's what we'll do. But that'll be in August, and there will be more information coming about that. And then I could have talked a whole lot longer today about grief and how to walk alongside people that are grieving. And so that's another thing to be looking forward to in the future is the Grief Share facilitators will be putting together a class, probably on Sunday mornings eventually, to talk more about that and give you some training for how to be with people who are grieving.
Yeah, that sounds good. And just to clarify, that's for those who are grieving the loss of a loved one.
Right. Yeah, Grief Share. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing on my list is Jenny is putting together family packets for the Slow and Grow VBS for this summer. So we won't be having VBS in the building, but she's got some great activity packets for families that she's putting together. And so you can register to reserve one of those packets for your family on our website. And that is on the Child, Youth, and Family Ministry page. You can find the link to that right across the very top of the homepage on the website.
Yeah, that sounds great. And then tonight's Thursday, so we have Pastor Corey's living room worship. What's the theme tonight?
You know, I don't remember.
So it's 7 o'clock, and
7 o'clock.
we will live into the unknown.
Yeah, right.
Embrace the mystery. That
Right.
is the theme of living room worship.
It'll be exciting, I'm sure.
It will. It always is. Yep, he's doing a fabulous job, and it's a joy to be together on Thursday nights. And a reminder, we're here live streaming on YouTube on Sundays at 10 a.m. If you happen to miss the service, usually by late afternoon, early evening, Kelly's posted that on the YouTube channel, and you can watch it after it's been edited. I think that does it for the day. It's always a joy to be with you all. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yep.
Always fun.
Yep. And so we love you. We miss you. We're excited to be with you in this way, and keep on loving one another in humility, especially in these times, and take care of each other, for we are all priests in the kingdom of God. We'll see you next time. God bless you.